So we got a really good one today. This is actually one we've talked about quite a while. We're going to get in one of the most heated debates, no pun intended, folks, in the cannabis community, and that is
white ash gang.
White ash, right? So you walk into any dispensary, you scroll any grow forum, you go on anything, any of these random side conversations. It always seems like people start talking about white ash and its association. With top shelf cannabis. Yes.
Synonymous.
Is it true? Well, we're going to think about that. We're going to break it down.
I've smoked a lot of weed in the last 30 some odd years. And did it all have white ash?
No, it did not.
Good? I don't think so.
We are going to talk about the science of combustion, the chemistry, what is ash and what actually determines its color. We're going to talk about factors that matter versus factors that don't. And some of these things are, as you might imagine,
noise,
bro science, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, if you hear these things so many times, sometimes they become fact. It's one of those things. And then we're going to get to what we believe is the actual verdict. Is white ash a real quality indicator? And what should you actually be measuring if it's not white ash?
Welcome back to the Jug Dealers Podcast, where we discuss all things cannabis and lifestyle related, brought to you by the good people at 5A, and as always available at jugdealers.net and jugdealers.shop.
Obviously, you can find all the products that you see behind us or that we talk about. We've got obviously a variety of different products. You can also sign up and be part of the Jug Club that we have over there on Patreon. A big shout out and call out to any of our commercial people that are working in commercial facilities or running commercial facilities. Obviously, we have a gentleman right next to me that's running a large facility on our gear and could always help you along. But you know, if you guys are looking for samples, things like that, don't be scared. We obviously do the sample stuff that you can find on our webpage. But even for you commercial folks, please reach out. You can reach out through the website, no problem. We'd love to put some samples in your hands. We definitely have a good one for you today.
Quick reminder, though.
Yes, quick reminder. What do we got?
We will be in MJ Berlin.
Oh, that's geez. I've been forgetting about this.
Don't want to forget. But we will be in MJ Berlin. We're really excited about it. It's going to be both of us. We may even have a special guest out there. Who knows?
We may have a special guest. We are not going to announce yet. There's actually a very decent chance, and we're talking a super special guest.
And we have giveaways for you guys.
Yes.
If you want to be a part of the Jug Dealers Germany experience, if you want some products that have not been released in Europe yet,
brand new into your market.
Go to the website. It's jugdealers.net/MJ Berlin, or you can just go to jugdealers.net and click on the MJ Berlin tab. Sign up. It's all free. You get to hang out with the guys. Be part of this little experiment we're throwing over in Europe.
Bring your wares.
You don't have to be from Germany. Anyone in the UK, anyone, anywhere. Really, if you're going to MJ Berlin,
you're going to M and you're checking
invited
the bag
to participate.
Come on by. I'll put you on the sign-up sheet. You'll actually get an email back from me personally. We'll get you on the list, get you ready to go. So really excited for that, actually. So great. Thanks for bringing that out. Also, quick
I was going to say, I'll be in Prague a couple days before. So if there's any juggernauts out there that are in Prague and know that underground,
you never know.
We always hit me up, dude.
We always gotta throw that line.
You never know, dude. I mean, dude, we've had some crazy experiences.
We've had some wild
people reaching out.
If you see a Deadhead Dread in chat, just ask him how the adventures with the Jug Dealers go.
You never know, dude. We pull up.
We pull up.
Dread, hey, shout out to Dread, man. Dread's a couple years clean now. He actually just put that up.
Excellent.
And Dread is looking really, really good, man. Shout out Dread.
Hey, shout out Dread. Good job, buddy. Really, that's a real and an amazing feat. Today, actually, real quick shout out, and part of the reason we're a little bit shouty here is thanks to you, iRock Watts, brought some of that Donnie Burger by. So, yeah, man.
Doing the thing.
So let's get it kicked off. Segment 1, combustion chemistry. What is white ash? Gabe, give us a go.
You know, really, before we can argue about white ash really means, we have to understand what the ash actually.
Well, what is ash?
What is ash? Because most people in this debate are arguing about that without actual foundation.
Yeah.
So let's get into the chemistry, because it's actually fascinating and it's completely reframes the conversation.
Well, this is definitely stuff that I hadn't really thought about. You know what I mean? I have always considered, water, not just water content, but water activity, as we've talked about in earlier episodes, which is different, right? Water content, total water content versus how water's moving through the plant tissue, right? So I've always really, talked about it more about, the dry or the moisture content, things like that. But I really never considered what combustion actually is, which is by definition a rapid oxidation reaction. So plant material, which is our organic carbon compound.
When you say rapid oxidation, so we're losing that oxygen quickly.
Correct, right. But these are organic carbon compounds, meaning that they are carbon-based compounds, hence organic. They react with oxygen and break down into CO2, water vapor, heat, light, and residue. The residue is ash, right?
Okay.
So then what is ash actually made of?
Well, it's made of everything that basically
doesn't burn,
didn't combust,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Inorganic materials, calcium, magnesium, potassium, phosphorus, trace elements. These are non-combustible. They stay behind as oxides after organic matter burns
I think that's one of the real reasons that, this flushing and some of these incorrect things, or this incorrect assumption that you can somehow flush nutrients out of a plant, or like once they've been assimilated into the plant. I mean, so anyway, I think that that's part of that, because people have an understanding, at least enough of an understanding, that what is left behind as ash are these things like, calcium, magnesium, et cetera. Right.
So let's talk about, I'd like you to get into why the color differs as far as complete versus incomplete combustion, because I think that's...
Well, I've always used that as one of the big arguments, specifically like, anybody that loves a good fire or camping or whatever, right? You get some really good seasoned pine or spruce or something. I mean, that poof, right? It is gone. Yep. I mean, there's no ash. If you go in the morning, you could literally...
density is going to have something to
I think
do with
density is going to have something to it. Obviously, water content, water activity, just like I'm saying. And I've always put it more towards that. And that, if you don't have something that's properly dried, or that the moisture hasn't properly evened out in the plant, then that's where you're going to have some of those combustion problems. But with this complete versus incomplete combustion, it's basically going to say, did it burn all the way or did it not? Because obviously incomplete is like a log that's not properly seasoned, that leaves those chunks. It burns. It's hot. It does what it's supposed to do. You can cook on it, but it does leave those bigger chunks that are black, like we have seen in our joints before.
Does anybody else have bells going off in their head? This conversation. Just saying.
Right. So,
it's not literal bells. we have reggae music, Mexican radio.
Yeah, we've been having all kinds of weird stuff coming through the thing.
So are you saying that black ash is more incomplete combustion?
That is, yes. White ash basically equals complete combustion. So all organic carbon has disappeared at that point. It's been oxidized in CO2, and what's left is that pure mineral oxide like we were talking about. So it is, and it can be, that's the other thing too, though, that what's left can be, because I've even seen that real fine ash. It's not chunky like a wet log. It's fine ash, but it might be more gray. It might even be a little bit darker. You know what I mean? So there does seem to be even a color gradient in stuff that is truly fully combusted ash, right? So maybe it's not white ash. And by the way, I really think that this entire argument has been exacerbated by the fact that cigarettes just have a white ash. I mean,
look, they've done all kinds of research.
Well, and
studied the color of ash for years.
Right.
Like
and actually put these elements in there to get these colors and things like that. So I'm like,
you ever notice it? Cigarettes don't go out when you put them down. They burn all the way to the end. A good joint actually goes out.
Well, yeah, that's true. And you know what I mean? Obviously, it's some of that moisture content and oil content and things like that. But no, you're right. I mean, you think about the way tobacco is. And anyway, it's, I like using more so the campfire analogy just because. Anyway, I think we've been unduly held to the standard with cigarette when it comes to the ash color. Another
Billy Tech thing that I never really that's just gonna be a thing on the show now, Billy Tech. but letting a joint burn out as opposed to putting it out. When you put it out, or like we'll have the tubes and you just put it in the tube and close the tube.
Right.
But when you let it go out, as opposed to putting it out, when you put it out, it tastes like shit when you start it back up. Whereas if you let it go out, it actually it retains a lot of that flavor that it had in the beginning. I didn't notice it till he said something.
Well, I also think that,
I usually, like, for most of my life, I would smoke entire joints and then, but lately in my old age,
I was going to say,
I'll smoke half a joint and then I'll put it down.
And I might come back for the other half. But again, the reality is, like we're talking about tobacco, they have been studying this for over 100 years. And in fact, they've actually, been known to add these metal oxides and calciums and things like that to get that white ash. Don't you know? And also nitrates, carbonates, things like that.
What's one thing that they found that I found very interesting is that studies by tobacco industry found that fertilizer type did not
do anything
significantly,
and that was whether it was and we're talking organic or synthetic nutrients, and anything. Like basically, it was non-discernible that made any kind of difference. I mean, really, temperature is one of the biggest things, right? And if you think about temperature versus putting it in a bong or something like that, where you're just taking the one hit versus putting in a joint where you get that gradient, right? Because we've even talked about that temperature gradient from a terpene aspect in the terpene episodes, where they're volatilizing at different temperatures, so you get a more full spectrum experience with the joint, I also think you're probably going to get a better possibility at a full combustion experience as well.
Well, and the other thing that also the tobacco industry showed that didn't matter, that did matter, was chlorophyll concentration, which again, goes back to that cure.
Yeah, well, exactly. And a lot of it, again, moisture content, cure, things like that. But I will say that temperature does seem to be king. And even if you look, going back to cigarettes as well, they're making that cherry burn to a certain level to get that white ash as well. So there's no question that white ash fundamentally forms at higher combustion temperatures with adequate oxygen, which is also going to change too if something's in a bowl where you're only getting oxygen from the top. You're not getting oxygen from all sides either, right?
And one thing I found interesting from the tobacco studies was actually that higher concentrations of chlorophyll in poorly cured tobacco was actually directly linked to darker, harsher ash.
You don't say.
Yeah. And this is, I mean, look, I don't smoke tobacco, but I think they might be onto something.
Well, and again, I mean, we do have to use some of these correlations, and we've had to use them when it comes to pesticides and things like that as well, because this is about the only thing out there that's been regulated and been smoked for, a long time. And if you really think about it, tobacco in general, or at least, communal smoking, whether it was because I know for example, the Sioux, they smoked red willow bark, right? So later on they would trade for tobacco and things like that. But early on, and they smoked a lot. Smoking was a huge part of their culture. Every time they made a serious decision, anything like that, they'd sit down for a smoke. So, smoking and that, fire and that just that primordial kind of, link to these things is still very strong. And that's one of the reasons that, tobacco does have the hold on our society that it does, right?
Oh, 100%. Can I get you to talk about the alkaline earth and metal oxide effect? Because I thought that was really interesting.
The alkaline earth metal oxide effect. Well, so here's the deal. Burning these compounds, it's definitely one of those things that creates a chemical reaction, right? So even it makes me think of those, the sparks, or burning magnesium, because we're talked about the fact that that's added magnesium in there, right? Which creates also that high heat, right? Have you ever seen magnesium even as a fire starter or something like that, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Super hot, super fast. So it's Now, by the way, I am not advocating for putting magnesium or additional calcium or anything like that in our stuff. I'm just saying it's all we really have to compare it to is that industry.
The thing I found interesting as well is, temperature. White ash fundamentally forms at higher combustion temperatures, which with adequate oxygen. So a lot of that times, maybe it's in your grind.
Well, I mean, I'm about to say, is it too hard of a pack? Is airflow not there? There's a lot of things that are there's a lot of things going to factor that. And in fact, no matter what, if you affect either of those things, it's going to affect the color of your ash, because it's going to either, not have been cured properly. So you're going to have more moisture in there, or it's not getting hot enough and you don't have the airflow.
Goes back to that density we were talking about.
Reminds me of biochar or charcoal. If you burn it in the absence of oxygen, it's just a deep black that doesn't actually consume it.
Right. That's really good. That's good, Josh.
When you go, it's funny because when you go back to Jerin's analogy about the pine, maple, hardwoods, you're going to get a lot more black out of that than out of something.
Or a opinion. I always get, I mean, those are so dense, you know what I mean? You always get it doesn't get to that, white ash that you can see out of some of that stuff.
So far, what we're kind of looking at is it has less to do with a lot of what people don't think, and more to do with people are just, as far as hey, it's not so much the nutrients, it's more cure, it's more how you're rolling it.
And how you burning it.
You
know what I mean? What temperature is getting up to. I mean, it's
I love the wet piece of wood versus the dry piece of wood.
Right.
How's it going to burn in the fire?
I think the fact that the fact that the people have been putting both of these things together and not separating them, I think there's times where, when we've talked on previous episodes, where looking at a plant's time periods individually was not a good thing. But the fact that we've not separated these things out and realized that they are independent. In other words, yes, it's going to matter what was ultimately in the plant and how it was cured out, and if the chlorophyll has been allowed to degrade properly and everything else. But the second part of that is that the temperature and how hot it's actually allowed to get is really a huge part of that. And everybody's always just pointing the finger at nutrients, flush, cure, things like that.
There's ways to burn a joint cooler or hotter, like the way you hold it in your hand.
Sure.
The way you pull on it.
Sure.
There's lots of ways, and people don't realize, I didn't think about it because you were just talking about the, the points where things volatilize.
Right.
And when people are, I thought about it when smoking donuts, because like you and I have talked about, like there are certain terpenes that convert to aldehydes,
right?
Like benzene at 380, 400 degrees, but you got to try and smoke that joint cooler.
Right.
Which means not pulling so hard on it.
I know. Yeah.
Which means not holding it down.
Right.
So it burns, because when it burns, this isn't stuff that a lot of people think about. Again, no, this is the Billy tech. This is shit. We're hanging out with Billy. He's like, hey man, don't hold the joint that way.
I laugh because like when I was in Spain and up in the Basque Country, it's like, shout out to my buddy Vander. It's just like, no mate, he's like, slow.
Right,
you know what I mean? And so it's like just the way he rolled, and you know what I mean? We're like, I don't know. We roll them fat and smoke them heavy here. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of the way we do. All right. And I digress. Let's talk about what matters actually and what matters. Yeah. Here's the deal. Where we're going, the fact that it's going to be pretty direct, because there's not everybody, I did not want to interrupt the show. However, we need you to help us by taking your grow to the next level. Go right on over to jugdealers.shop and pick up some Slicium. Don't let bugs or a failed AC or a broken pump take your grow down. Get Slicium at jugdealers.shop. It is readily water soluble and uptaken immediately to thicken cell walls and reduce any and all abiotic and biotic stresses. Keep in mind, this is how we support the show. We are never sponsored. We are funded by you taking your grow to the next level. So to support us and your grow, head on over to jugdealers.shop and get yourself something real nice. Now back to the show. The fact that it's going to be pretty direct, because there's a lot of noise online. And really, I'm going to go straight to the point, because I think the fact that the number one thing that genuinely matters, number one, is cure quality. Yep. And I think that's flat out the big one, right? Proper curing progressively breaks down the chlorophyll, like we've been talking about.
Well, a lot of times people these days don't cure it. They dry it. Those are two different things. We have a whole episode on it.
Yes. And by the way,
removing moisture is not curing.
Right. And what's funny is, like, there can be a short cure and a long cure, right? So a cure could even just be the back end of the dry on something like an OG, like we talked about, that's like an IPA, best consumed fresh.
Yep.
Once it's properly dried.
Yep.
But that chlorophyll breakdown still needs to happen for a couple days. It doesn't need to be 4 months in a jar or something like that. It's a rather quick progression, but it's got to happen, right? And chlorophyll, as we know, it's a very large, it's a very complex organic molecule with you got it, magnesium center. Mm-hmm. So when it degrades magnesium, it releases a mineral contributing to white ash, right? So when we get that chlorophyll breakdown, we already said the magnesium was one of the factors, the factors that we can definitively point to. So when that chlorophyll breaks down and the magnesium is made available, then it's actually volatilized when you burn it.
Releases a mineral.
So then you get the white ash.
Yeah.
So, but undercured obviously is going to retain that high chlorophyll, which is going to burn incompletely, right? And then you're going to get left with that darker ash. Maybe it's gray, maybe it's dark black. Doesn't really matter. But again,
we can just sign off now. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Really
good time.
Cure quality. Look, shocker, but it's cure quality and then really moisture content. But to me, these are also like that's kind of one and the same.
Yeah, they should go hand in hand.
Right. Now here's. Obviously, I think moisture content has been one of the things that's been most overlooked. But here's one thing I'm actually kind of was most curious about, and this has been the only thing that I can actually that I've seen that vilifies the blackout period at the end, right? Mm-hmm. And I've messed with it a little bit. Sometimes it's just from a harvesting convenience factor, like whatever. It's like, you know what? I'm just going to turn them off for its last, day cycle and just kind of let them dry out a little bit, whatever. But for
this was an interesting tidbit.
So turning your lights off 24 to 48 hours before harvest actually accelerates chlorophyll breakdown, which does make sense. It's already senescing. Mm-hmm. Now, once the lights are out, it goes, look, there's nothing for me. I mean,
wrap it up.
It's just not there. So this is actually supported by research on harvested plant tissue as well. Plants in darkness rapidly degrade chlorophyll. This is a real scientifically supported technique. So that combined with lower temperatures in the final weeks, which also triggers chlorophyll degradation, turns out. And that actually triggers it with lights actually even still on. But that tells me, why would that happen? Well, think about it outside. As it's cooling in the fall, that's another another trigger to a true annual plant to go, time to wrap this up.
Well, and I actually
time to wrap this up
in my commercial facility. Wrap it up, B. Wrap it up, B. Let's go. Actually, and
Grandma loves bringing that up.
I keep it on deck just in case.
On that too, we actually on a lot of the genetics we run, we'll actually do a descending light cycle at the end where we're doing.
Well, but
14,
that makes
10,
sense.
14.
But that makes sense too, because if you're allowing that kind of, I mean, it's almost like a pre-dry, right? Like, hey, I'm going to actually skip out on the last dry or something, or last watering or something like that, right? To almost pre-dry, if you could do it. I mean, it's the same kind of concept, but by getting that pre-degradation doing, like from what I'm seeing and what I'm being told and with the research that we've done, there's actually, it can be scientifically proven that it is meaningful for combustion quality, which,
hey, look, it saves
is
you
what
day,
we're looking for at the end.
Saves you a day worth of power. That's $50.
Go back to the last episode and you'll hear all about that. GRAMBO, can you move that up, please? All right. So let's look a little bit at the mineral profile of the plant. So plants high in calcium, magnesium that have been properly absorbed and structurally incorporated into cell walls, so they're not just floating around, right? And we know that they are both secondary messengers within the plant because they operate in different ionic forms like Ca2 plus and Ca3 plus, right? Because it's flip-flopping electrons back and forth. It's one of the ways that it actually talks with itself. So they will leave more alkaline metal oxide ash, which is why, right? And again, hate to keep going back to cigarettes, but they actually added to get this. So this is a real effect. However, it is subtle and easily overwhelmed by combustion conditions, i.e. if it's a high enough combustion temperature, you can actually override that effect, which I found interesting. So now all of a sudden, all this talk about mineral content and everything like that, well, it turns out by a proper cure being dry enough and burning hot enough.
Yeah.
Doesn't even fucking matter.
Yeah. Not as much. Well, not as much. Not as much as people think, dude.
Right,
obviously, I know a lot of people will do that CalMag flush at the end. And you see people who'll do it to try and push that way, but it doesn't matter as much as you think. Now
I get why it works, because originally it was always kind of like, give me a break. Now here's another thing. I do think that the method of smoking,
and this is underappreciated. Joints burn white ash far more consistently than pipes and bongs.
Because like we were talking about, it's got a nice big ash.
It's got that cherry. It's doing the thing. You don't get that in a pipe. The science in a joint is the unburned material ahead of the cherry is preheated and the moisture is driven off before combustion. You see that as you're going.
Yeah.
So I have the vapors going,
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Airflow is optimized. Pipes and bongs, they have poor airflow.
Right.
So, and that's the whole point of a joint, is that you're getting good airflow.
Well, think about it. How I remember, like back in the day, we'd literally smoke the top side. Well, now we just throw it away. But back in the day, we would smoke the top, remember? And so you got oxygen on the top and you have a fire source, right? And then on the bottom, it wouldn't really burn because it doesn't have the oxygen.
Well, you guys always
and then we flip it over.
That's why I pack the snaps.
He does pack the snaps.
Yeah, I mean, I pack the snaps. These guys are always packing huge
stirring bowls was like part of my unit. Like even saying that's like, I haven't stirred a bowl in a minute.
But that's what I'm saying. Remember that was the whole. No, that was part of the. Josh, you remember?
Oh,
you're from the Midwest.
Well,
I was part of the. Remember, I had a buddy who would
smoke every part of the buffalo.
Oh, all parts of buffalo.
Resin.
Well, he would like so delicately and perfectly, like with a toothpick, like flip over the. Man,
fuck that noise. And so I mean, the biggest
shit's done.
The biggest takeaway from all of that part of the conversation is you can have the same weed with different smoking methods and have completely different ash color.
So that would leave someone to believe that it's not about mineral content or even as much about moisture content.
Here's the Billy Tech input.
I love how you
always, because I'm going to tell you right now, we do pre-rolls where I'm at, and Billy's biggest issue is always the paper.
Okay,
the rolling paper.
I thought it was funny that Gabe actually included this, and I laughed hard because I knew it was about Billy, because I know how paper sensitive
Billy
Boy is.
He's the most paper sensitive person.
I saw that and I just laughed. I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. But there is validity to it.
If they're flavored, if they're not rice papers, I mean, he's at the point where he's like a 0.05 whatever micron. It's like they have to be thin. They have to be rice papers.
Trike Farms gets like the raw ones, but like the super skinny, like the super skins.
Billy, I don't even. I want to say it's an element, but and then same thing. Billy's at the point now where like a joint has to be the size of a paper.
Right.
Our boss Lee, is the master of rolling the inside out joint. I still can't figure it out.
I can't. I don't.
You know,
I don't have it.
but when he rolls the inside out joint, he's literally ripping that excess paper off.
Yeah.
But that is really the
He'll roll it backwards, seal it, like rip off the excess. We should do like a short.
Yeah, we should have him.
I get the premise on. I just don't.
Yeah, I don't have the skill. I can roll a great fucking joint. I can't.
So you're saying back in my day, this was not the preferred.
Oh no,
no. What was even worse? The Randys.
Yeah.
The Randys.
The wires.
There's nothing worse than the Randys.
I mean, my mom was on easy widers, dude. Those things were like, you might as well have been smoking. I mean, you were better off smoking Bible paper.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Which we did in the 90s. Folks.
Let's talk about, go ahead.
Just say we smoked Bible paper.
I've never actually smoked.
I've never done it.
No, I'm the only one going to hell.
Yeah,
it's funny.
Go figure. I already knew that though.
Dread and I were going back and forth about some of the stuff we've smoked out of over the years, and like prototypes. Like remember in the
I've smoked out some bad shit.
Remember you used to go to Ace and you used to get all the brass fittings.
Yeah. But then you had to put them all together while you're there, and then you had to take it all back apart to buy it.
Yeah, you'd go to the lighting section for the lamps. You'd go to the plumbing section. You'd put it all together.
Dude, good point on the taking it back apart. I didn't think about that part of it. It's such a great, unappreciated part of the story.
Yeah. Some of these kids will never know about. Okay, let's talk. We talked about factors that matter. Let's talk about factors that don't matter as much as people think. And the very first one is, you know what we're going to say, flushing, right? So the so-called sacred cow of the white ash debate.
Yes.
That's what everybody said.
I've had weed that people didn't flush at all. It tasted great.
And here's the thing.
I've had broken branches on plants that came off early that were not flushed that tasted great.
Look, there's a widely held belief that flushing excess nutrients before harvest removes minerals from the plant, resulting in cleaner white ash cannabis. That is categorically incorrect.
I can tell you what it does. It does remove nutrients from the plant so it can't stave off mold and mildew and shit like that. And then, it's a really small window.
Well, here's the thing. It can't, once it's been assimilated, like any amount of flushing cannot significantly change the elemental composition of the plant. It's already in there.
No, 100%.
I'd say that's one of the things I've learned from you guys this year is like the immobile versus mobile. It's like some of that's just, it's locked in the cells.
Once it's done, it's done.
Well,
and the magnesium is the center of
it's there.
Center of the cell. It's not going anywhere.
It's the plants that are regulating their internal nutrient usage, right? That's what, at that point, they're regulating it. So can we get plants with less mineral content by allowing the plant to consume itself? Yeah, but there's no amount of flushing that does anything. When I say flush, it's just a term of water only. That's what I mean when I say flush. Now, has there been a time many years ago in my growing career where I would dump copious amounts of water through the substrate and do what was told was a real? Yeah, we did. But look, we all make mistakes, people. We all make mistakes.
Here's the one that I love. Organic versus synthetic nutrients. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. And again, that is backed by, some real science.
Backed by science.
Backed by science.
Real people.
The one thing I would like to say about the flush debate, it's still somewhat unsettled only in the sense that, how long your plant is given plain water and allowed to consume itself and stuff, is that really going to, but the reality is that connection, the flushing connection with white ash, the science on it, that connection remains rather weak.
I mean, look, dude,
folks.
I've changed my opinion on how long I think we should be running water at the end of the plant. I mean, there was times in my life where I ran 14 days. I'd never do that now.
Well, and I think a lot of people, no, I never do anything like that now. I think a lot of people also like to use strain genetics because, as we've always said, strain specificity almost in every single discussion we have, you get to a point where it becomes strain specificity. Well, here's the deal. It really, what supersedes that very consistently is how it's dried, cured, stored. So we're still back to that. And then also more specifically how it's burned, right? And is it completely combusted or not? I mean, again, how's it burnt? So the reality is a perfectly grown plant can be poorly, have poor airflow and everything else, just like the same thing where you can have two of the same herbs properly, but smoked in different ways and you're going to get white or not. So again, none of these things that people really think matter, whether it's nutrients, brand or type, whether it's organic, synthetic, flushing, genetics, none of these things really matter. None of them supersede drying, curing, and combusting.
Can we taste the nutrients?
No, you can taste chlorophyll. You can taste lack of terpenes. That's the other thing I think that sometimes people, when they think that they I just came up with that right off my head. I'm not even kidding.
Bang.
I mean, really though, you know what I'm saying though? When it gets to that like hay and you go, there's nothing there because it's just too much chlorophyll and whatever plant matter is left. So like if you don't have terpenes, real terpenes drowning out the plant taste, if you will, I can see how people would think that tastes like nutrients, right? But that's not what you taste. It's not like you can maybe taste some residual sugars, like same things, but you cannot taste synthetic fertilizer salts. Okay, I'm going to let everybody know and remind everybody, plants uptake nutrients in an inorganic plant available form. You heard what I said. If you give it an organic form that is carbon-based, it has to be transitioned to an inorganic plant available form. Specifically, let's use nitrogen as an example. You give it an NH4, that's not how it's being uptaken. It's being uptaken actually as nitrate, which is NO3 minus. So,
hey guys, today's show is brought to you by jugdealers.shop. You want to grow the best cannabis possible, head over to jugdealers.shop and get something like our Ruby Fulvic. It's going to give you more efficient uptake on your NPK. You could also try our Winter Frost to increase secondary metabolite uptake and improve your cultivar's flavor and phenotypic expression. Or finally, grab some cocoa blocks to save time and money. This is how you can support the show and it keeps us going. We're never sponsored. We're 100% funded by you taking your garden to the next level. Head over to jugdealers.shop and get something to help your cultivation thrive. Now, back to the show.
Organic plant available form. You heard what I said. If you give it an organic form that is carbon-based, it has to be transitioned to an inorganic plant available form. Specifically, let's use nitrogen as an example. You give it an NH4, that's not how it's being uptaken. It's being uptaken actually as nitrate, which is NO3 minus. So
there's some things that need to switch around. They've got to lose some H's and grab some O's.
There's got to be some things that, there's got to be some things that happen there. So there's
a lot of trading going on in there.
I mean, it's chemistry. That's the, and by no means are we chemists, but reality is whether it's these exchange processes, whether it's these electron exchanges, whether it's, diffusion, whether it's.
They're their own kind of dealers. They're not jug dealers, but they're like, hey, you give me a couple of these, I'll give you a couple of those. At
the end of the day, where does this really leave us? Is white ash real? Is it meaningful? If you're judging your weed by this, I'm going to say flat out, you're judging it on the wrong stuff. I still believe that the nose knows. You know what I mean? I still believe that the way you consume with your eyes and your nose and then your actual palate is still going to ring true. So if all those things work out well for you, I could give a damn if it's white ash or not.
Billy made a good point. We got some flour in the Michigan market. It was supposed to be some of the better flour. I was thoroughly impressed. It sat for, to the point where I put it down. I was like, screw this. I'm not smoking this. And then like a month later, went back and smoked it after it had cured.
Right.
And it was actually much better than it was when I purchased it because they didn't cure the damn weed. They just pushed it out the door. Didn't, you know what I mean? Right. So, and I'm sure there's a lot of, same thing. I just, not that I had a bad cure on some flour, but I had some of my Elemento D that was just sitting in the door. And like I pulled it out and because it had a great cure, it had been sitting underneath my seat for like the whole time I was gone. Oof. And I pulled it out and put it in the pipe and I was like, wow, this tastes great. Why? Because when you have a good cure on your flour, it carries and it holds well. And it actually, the flour will continue to stay well if you store it properly.
Yeah.
That flour will actually stay pretty good.
Now, I will say this: I've also done the old, go from Colorado to Oregon, have properly cured. Not Colorado crumble.
Then it gets moist.
But I fell asleep. Had a few beers, fell asleep, and left the jar open or something. And you go from breaking it up to ripping it. Yeah, wet.
You're like, fuck happened?
It's happened to me in Florida as well. But here's the thing: the reality is what's most likely to actually burn properly and be fully incinerated and be fully combusted.
Well-cured weed.
I mean, again, this
plain and simple.
And the reality is, what should you really be evaluating? It's the same shit we've talked about: terpene profiles, aroma,
flavor, trichome density, and structure,
all that, all that kind of stuff. I think that white ash does give you an indicator of cure, but it does not give you an indicator of quality, right? Because you could have not great herb that's cured and it's going to be as good as it's ever going to be. But guess what? It just doesn't have the terpene levels and the terpene profiles that something else beside it does, right? So like even on that level, you go, oh, okay. Like it is an indicator. It's just not an indicator of quality, really. It's an indicator of cure.
I mean,
that's where we're messing up.
What white ash can really tell you is if you're smoking a joint, same paper, same rolling technique, same humidity every time, and your weed consistently burns white, that's a meaningful data point, you know?
Well, like I said, I think it's a meaningful data point for your cure.
Yeah, it suggests proper dry, proper cure,
but it has nothing to do with quality. Look, the problem is it's being used as a primary marketing tool still, and I believe this claim is an overreaching claim because, again, all it's telling you, which, by the way, cheers to you if you are properly drying and curing. I mean, because that is, you just said it yourself. You got it from supposed to be premium top shelf, was pushed out too fast, wasn't done correctly. So especially on a commercial level, it's not always easy to actually dry and cure. So you're doing one thing right.
Nobody burps. But nobody burps tubs. Nobody in commercial, but I shouldn't say nobody.
Right.
Because we do.
But
nobody burps tubs.
But if you're rejecting anything purely based on the ash color. I mean, I look at it like, dude, you know what it reminds me of? These white ash videos. You know what it reminds me? It reminds me of the old like dab videos with the slabs, where it's like just kind of ridiculous. You know what I mean? And it looks good on film, but it doesn't really do shit for it. It doesn't tell you about the high. It doesn't tell you about the terpene profile. It doesn't tell you anything about the quality.
Here's what I am going to say though. A nice video with a white ash and a good resin ring.
I like the resin ring.
You know what I'm saying? Boy. Like the resin, as much as the white ash may lie, the resin ring don't lie.
Resin ring don't lie.
Anytime you see that resin ring, it's usually pretty good flour, you know?
Well, here's the thing. Misinformation spreads in such a way that I like how this is put. It calcifies into lore, right? Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things you hear enough. It goes from lore to more or less fact. And I think that's a bit what's happened here.
In cannabis, for sure, dude, you know, in general.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think in general, and I think that's one of those things where, I mean, yeah, we shouldn't get into that. Look, you get told enough the things, you know, they call it, you know, what you gaslighting, fire hosing, whatever for a reason. But if you get hit with that stuff enough and you hit it with enough videos and stuff, then you do sit there and go, well, you know, if it's repeated that confidently for that long,
people say it over and over again.
True. Yeah. It's gotta be true.
They say that in politics. You hear something 6 times, you're open to it. You hear something 60 times, you believe it.
There you go. There you go. So
make your own choices, kids.
Well, make your own choices, kids.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to bring up, one of the most impactful things that one of my personal favorite, I do this cannabis thing all day, every day. Your guys' video about the data usage was, I think, one of the most important videos in cannabis right now. If you guys haven't seen that, go back and check it out.
Check it.
And I'd say invite yourself to observe, like when you smoke a joint of your weed, is it white? When you smoke a bowl, a bong, like actually be observant to these things. Maybe write it down. What does produce white ash? And if you guys have any thoughts, leave a comment.
Absolutely. And here's the deal, guys. The fact of the matter is, focus on what you can truly control. Nail your cure. Get your moisture right. Stop flushing for the wrong reasons, or stop flushing the wrong way, I could also say. Understand your combustion method and understand that those combustion methods can be different. And when someone at a smoke session goes in on the white ash, just turn the fuck around and leave, because it's not worth the argument. I mean, really, what is the takeaway, Gabe? The fact is,
it's what tastes good, man. That's the reality. I mean, you know, and I'll tell you, if you get a little herb that maybe doesn't taste so good, seems a little wet from the dispensary or something, maybe leave it out overnight, man. You know, maybe you, unfortunately, maybe you need to finish the job that they didn't do right to get a little bit better smoke
I think,
out of it.
And reality is, I think the main takeaway is that white ash is a real phenomenon with science behind it. People are just linking that science to the wrong thing.
Yeah,
they're linking it to quality and not
the cure.
To cure. And that, folks, is the whole point of this episode. So thank you guys so much for hanging out. We really do appreciate it. From the Jug Den, we will catch you very soon, bringing you as good episodes as we possibly can each and every time. See you soon.
Peace.
Everybody, big shout out to all of our European listeners. If you're planning at being in Berlin for Mary Jane in June. Come by and see us. We're going to do a very exclusive drop on some products you guys have never seen before. It will be sign up only. You'll come and pick up your package there. The way to sign up for this is to go to our website at jugdealers.net and click on the MJ Berlin tab. You can also type it in at jugdealers.net/MJ Berlin, and that will be to sign up for a very exclusive nutrient pack that will be dropping for the very first time. This is available to anybody that's going to be attending Mary Jane Berlin. You must get it in person. Come by and see us. We'll be dropping our booth number here sometime real soon. But if you want to get signed up now, go and click the tab or type in the address and we'll get you signed up. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in Berlin.